Good morning. My name is Russell Cohen, and I am an independent and moderate candidate for the presidency of the United States in 2024. I wanted to do a short video today about gun control, which I think is probably one of the most controversial topics in America. Let me start by reading the Second Amendment to you. I know most of you know it, but just so that we can be clear, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, I think most of the first part, or all of the first part of the Second Amendment, is really not where the controversy is. I think the controversy surrounds the phrase shall not be infringed. And in my mind, that is a very clear, precise, and it's a statement that really makes supremely clear what the founders were trying to do, and that is make sure that the Congress, with the president's signature, did not pass any laws that infringed on the right of the people to bear arms. It's very clear to me. I think fundamentally where our problem is that over the decades, the Supreme Court has, and it's justified in my mind, they have allowed certain gun control laws, and there haven't been as many challenges as there could have been, so the Supreme Court may someday stop a lot more gun control than they already have if there were more cases being appealed to it. But they have said there are areas that the Congress has been allowed to infringe on the right to bear arms. And I think that fundamental problem, at least for the right in this country, maybe the hard right, but many people on the right believe that it's a slippery slope when you start to violate the Constitution. And really, when the Supreme Court said that you can restrict guns, maybe based on mental health problems, based on age, prior felonies, things like that, they did infringe on the right to bear arms. And I happen to think a lot of those infringements were worthy causes, but they still violate the Second Amendment. And then you have people on the left who I think their hearts are good. They see these mass murders of children, and our murder rates are high in America and compared to other nations. And they just feel a need to stop guns being so easily accessible out there. So they're more than willing to pass laws with SCOTUS's blessing that do infringe on our rights. So we have this tug of war where the left is saying, let's infringe on the rights, and the right is saying you're violating the Constitution. And I think there's a happy medium that I'd like to propose as a moderate person. And really, why don't we change the Second Amendment in one of two ways? Either we say that every 10 or maybe 20 years, the Congress does have a right to infringe on the people's right to bear arms with legislation. Perhaps it could be signed. It would have to be passed by a large majority of the Congress and signed by the president, where every 20 years or so, when a new weapon technology comes up, something changes in our society that we do need to infringe on the right to bear arms, let's let it happen on a regular basis, but few and far between. The other way we could do it is just modify the Second Amendment itself and put in there things like, you don't have a right to infringe on the right to bear arms, but we are going to say you do have a right in the Second Amendment to infringe on a person that has a prior felony record. You have a right to infringe if they've been adjudicated mentally ill. You have a right to infringe, maybe we could define assault weapons, age, and there are 5 or 6 things that I think we should infringe on. And I think most Americans would agree with that if we would do it in the proper way. And then when we're not working on that amendment, 5 years down the road, we haven't passed a whole bunch more laws to infringe on people's rights. We've really got to stop that, because when we violate the Constitution, it just makes a lot of people, it makes me very nervous, because if we can't honor the Constitution, what do we honor? What are we honoring? It's the most important document there is in our nation. It's where all of our rights come from. So let's not violate it. Let's go ahead and modify it and put it in the Constitution itself. And then perhaps 20 years later, there'll be something new on the horizon that Congress wants to, change, and they'll have a right to infringe every so often, or we'll change the Second Amendment again. I think it's real simple, and I don't want to understate it. It's very important, but it's really not that complicated, I don't think, if we could just put our heads together and change this to where it makes sense really to everybody, that we do a one-time now. We haven't changed it really since the beginning when it was amended. I don't remember the year, but let's change it, because we all know that mass murders with these assault weapons, especially of children, high-powered magazines with a large number of rounds in them, bump stocks, mental health adjudication, we all know that we don't want guns in those situations. At least most of us do, I think. We could easily compromise on that. So that's my idea, and I hope you'll find it interesting and acceptable, because that's where I stand, and that's what I will advocate as I run for this office of the presidency. I think it would be a nice way to stop all the vitriol and fighting that's going on over the Second Amendment, and lead to a nice, settled, quiet compromise that really protects everyone in our country well. So thank you for listening. Have a nice day. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.